Hi everyone. We are at Thank you so much. That's coffee for Ivan, who's also here, who launched the Section 377A challenge, where I first launched in 2010, and today we are celebrating a partial victory. Nevertheless, though we were hoping for a complete unconstitutional upholding of 377A by the courts, but however we take the satisfaction at least that the courts have recognized that and have allowed the arguments and appreciated the arguments advanced on behalf of Roy Tan, which was brought to the court's attention, and that the 377A is unenforceable given the Attorney General's undertakings and so on and so forth, that it will not be proactively enforced. When you say not proactively enforced, means there's confusion in the manner in which it is enforced and so on. Now the courts essentially have said that as it stands, 377A is unenforceable, period, until the AG makes it very clear. Now, which means the ball is being passed back to Parliament, and AG only takes the advice from the government, gives advice to the government, but AG will not be making decisions. That's not the function of AG. The Attorney General takes the decision of the government, and it can decide what kind of undertaking it can give. Now, this is a problem which was already identified by the Deputy Attorney General, the current Deputy Attorney General, Mr. Hari Kumar, when he was speaking in the Repeal 377A debate in 2007. Now, we all knew that this was the mess that will be created, and it was created. Dr. Roy took this specific argument on board. In fact, at the time when I was acting for Dr. Roy, I thought that the constitutional argument on scientific issue advanced by one of the team will not work because science can go either way. But though it worked in India, but India's situation is different from Singapore, given the way the politics and political dynamics work in Singapore, and the judiciary has identified that tension between essentially Parliament and judiciary, if the judiciary were to be involved more in this debate. So the courts have squarely focused on only one issue as to whether leaving aside the constitutionality, the court was not prepared to rule on that, because they say that there is no issue of constitutionality because there is no credible threat of prosecution, because the AG has basically not prosecuted anyone as such. Now, so where are we then? Dr. Roy has also another application which is being fixed for hearing, but it's a pre-trial conference fixed on Wednesday, and where Ms. Neto will be appearing for the pre-trial conference on behalf of Dr. Roy. I continue to represent Dr. Roy internationally to protect his rights, including Singapore. And there are international forums as well. Don't forget, Singapore is an island, but not metaphorically, but not literally. Yes, literally an island, but also we have to look at the international reactions as well in terms of the law, as in UN conventions and so on. Now, on that note, I am very gratified, and I remain thankful before I pass the mic to Dr. Roy, to a very important person who is Ivan. And it is because of this great man. Ivan, what do you have to say? Do you have anything to say? How you feel?
The light will be with us all through the days of our life. At the end of the tunnel, we can see the light.
Okay, at the end of the tunnel, we can see the light. In fact, this great man, Ivan, went through a lot of discrimination by the gay community itself. And it is this great man, Dr. Roy, on the right, who actually, someone who takes his, he teaches, he also taught medicine in NUS, and he's very qualified in his field. He's also a medical doctor who just retired. But Dr. Roy actually stepped forward to be actually another voice against the discrimination of Ivan, because Ivan was charged for oral sex in a public toilet and so on. That then gave us the challenge on 377A, which then gave finally a wider standing for the entire gay community to challenge anyone to come forward and challenge. But unfortunately, it could have got rid of, I personally feel, because the court was presided by Justice V.K. Raja, which I thought, who subsequently issued a statement in the recent challenges that his views are very clear that it is unconstitutional. But doesn't matter. We are already here, and we have got this victory right now. And I just hope that Parliament will take the enlightened path to get rid of 377A because and say that it's unconstitutional. Because you must remember, Dr. Roy also has another application. It all depends on how Parliament decides. And if you are saying again that, oh, we will keep the law, but we will completely not enforce it, also it's problematic. Then why you keep the law? Symbolic keeping of the law means that that law is it's an illegitimate law that raises a fundamental constitutional question again. And now we have Dr. Roy, who will also be, by the way, Dr. Roy has also a YouTube channel, Homosexuality in Singapore. This particular video will also be on his YouTube, which is also a very, very detailed documentation of the history of homosexuality, and it's a reservoir of information and resource for even law students and everyone. Yes, Dr. Roy. Yes.
I'm very happy and grateful at the Court of Appeal for handing down this judgment, which, although may seem incomplete on the surface, is actually a very significant victory. It's been an almost 12-year arduous struggle for my human rights lawyer, M. Ravi, Ivan Tan, and myself to push the challenges and push the boundaries of our arguments until we have reached this point of victory. So the declaration of the Court of Appeal that Section 377A is unenforceable and its significance will be felt within the next few months, and we will have to wait and see how the government digests this pronouncement and all the signposting that goes along with it. So I seriously think that this is a major step in the image that the gay community will have after this significant pronouncement by the Court of Appeal, and it will affect our lives in many ways, in terms of the legislation, in terms of image, in terms of representation in the media, in terms of how Parliament debates this issue, which they are sort of almost forced to do now that this ruling has come out in the next months to perhaps a year. And even if Parliament doesn't really repeal Section 377A, I have my backup application for a mandatory order to bring this issue into the fore again. So I think it is inevitable that there will be significant effects that this significant ruling has produced. So we hope to see what is going to happen in the next few months, 2 years, and how it affects all our lives.
How does the other two sections you want to talk about, yes, interplay here?
Yeah, well, I'm so grateful to my lawyer M. Ravi for coming up with these novel arguments which have not been advanced previously and which are so new and so engaging that the CJ, the Court of Appeal, has been forced to come to grips with them. And the crux of the matter is that there are two very significant pieces of legislation which the decision by Parliament not to proactively enforce 377A contradicts, and one of them is Section 424 of the Criminal Procedure Code, which mandates any Singaporean who knows of the existence of a gay couple who has gay sex, mandates and obligates them to report this couple to the police because they are contravening Section 377A of the Penal Code, failing which they have committed a criminal offence and are liable for a jail term of up to 6 months and a fine of $3,000. So this directly contradicts Parliament's decision not to enforce 377A, and we cannot have these legal contradictions in a scientific application of the law. So it just brings the law into disrepute, and my lawyer has surfaced this point which was unknown prior to this, and it is so compelling. And there's also Section 119 of the Penal Code, which mandates every public servant, whether it be a doctor, a nurse working in a government hospital, a teacher working in a government school, or any government servant, even the police who are regarded as public servants, to report gay men having sex because it contradicts a very serious Section 377A. It causes a crime which is listed under one of the severe crimes that have to report to the police. No arguments about that. And that also contradicts Parliament's decision not to enforce Section 377A. So taken together, Section 424 of the Criminal Procedure Code and Section 119 of the Penal Code, these two huge contradictions that abut against Parliament's decision have made it such a contradiction that the courts have been forced to address the issue. And I'm so grateful to my lawyer for coming up and having the brilliance to argue these points in our case, which I'm so glad as well that I decided to pursue for during the course of our entire struggle in this case.
You know, I must confess that even at the doorstep of coming back with Dr. Roy to come and contest this particular point, we also faced discrimination in the team, that people are not happy that Dr. Roy is coming with this argument. I think let me just say before my parting shot from this profession is that please, you got to be selfless. You got to think wider. You got to think broadly. Law is not about overnight you become famous, you this and that. With all my popularity, I can milk my publicity in various directions if I want to as a lawyer, but I don't want to. As a human rights lawyer, my duty is to the rule of law. My allegiance is without fear nor favor. I don't care what society thinks or who thinks, whether it is a popular or an unpopular cause. I go ahead with my gut feel and my notions, my deepest notions of the rule of law. And my spiritual quest in this journey is always equality, compassion, and justice. I'm not perfect, just like many of you are out there. But please do not resist. The society's problem is that just because we have another alternative idea, the community which is supposed to not discriminate, it discriminated Ivan. And they continue to discriminate Dr. Roy. And they continue to discriminate myself. In fact, on this note, I have to bring on board that please guys, you know what, Roy and Ivan is always in tears, when we talk about this, because Ivan really went through a lot. And, honestly, I went through a lot, because if not for Dr. Roy, it was emotionally a big struggle. This 377A is the most difficult case that I ever fought before, because death penalty is draining as we speak. Ms. Neto is in the in court arguing on behalf of Roslan and Fauzi and Rosman that they should not be executed. I'm awaiting the decision as well, and I had to hop into this press conference, a very important press conference, to contribute to whatever I can. And you know what? It's not about brilliance. It's not about the brilliance or the. To me, it is actually the lack of discussion in Singapore, the lack of respect for space, that of diversity that we ourselves in the legal teams can give. You just get irritated and get your knickers in a twist when we have alternative ideas. Please, it is this Ivan who stood his ground single-handedly, meaning it was very difficult. He could have faced bankruptcy and all that when it right up to the time when it reached 377A Court of Appeal. After it became positive, you want to be involved. So this is what I don't like about the gay community in Singapore, the larger gay community or running the Pink Dot and so on. Please, it's an appeal to me. Please to work on this path of diversity that you preach, and the work on the part of discrimination against discrimination. You must learn how to accept a wider community of views, which some of us have because we stood steadfastly, and today we got this victory. And that goes, this thanks goes to both the Tans, So Dr. Roy, of course, has already launched another judicial review to mandate Parliament to pass a law to bring it in conformity with the Constitution, given the administrative unenforceability, which is the unique argument that he brought up to the court. And I would like to thank, of course, the international team at London Human Dignity Trust, as well as the chambers in London, which helped us, and others who were behind the scene to have contributed. But quite significantly, we must understand that it is a local jurisprudence. This jurisprudence about constitutionality of 377A in India and all that, I realized from the outset, this is not going to work in Singapore, because I have sufficient understanding of the constitutional law in Singapore, having argued some of the landmark decisions, many of the landmark decisions. And of course, I take pride in whatever I've done. Almost all of it I've done pro bono, including the 377A. But I'm happy as I'm on my way out to contribute more, I hope, to the international community of law students and lawyers in India, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Nigeria, Geneva, and so on and so forth. The march continues against a complete repeal of 377A in Parliament, and Dr. Roy definitely will see through that. And I appeal to the wisdom of Parliament to see this decision that there is no way we can actually have a complete unenforcement and still symbolically have the law there. That is contradictory in principle, and it will, if it is contradictory in principle, because there's no law that says that we won't enforce, we keep the law. That is actually against rule of law. Because what's the rule of law? Law is to follow, right? You have a law for symbolic purpose. Let's end this song and dance and stress ourselves. And I think that Parliament already has the wisdom which was highlighted by, to be fair to the Deputy Attorney General, Mr. Hari Kumar. I may have criticism on other fronts, but on this particular point, he did highlight as an MP when he, as he then was, that this was a problem of enforceability. In fact, we highlighted his arguments as well in court. And now, are we going to celebrate?
Yes.
Any invitation?
Yes.
You know what? Ivan is asking me the question. That means I can have 3778, can have sex tonight, is it? Today, is it? And then I won't be prosecuted. Yeah, the court says that you can have 3778, no issue. But only thing is, no issue meaning what? No. The police cannot enforce, which means what? They can't, right? The courts have passed another, not law, the court have pronounced that whether, it's very confusing, because everybody is asking, so what? Then what? You know what I mean or not? So Ivan is saying that, can I have sex or not? Plain, right?
Yeah.
I said yes from the judgment. Dr. Roy?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so, I always have dash, but, I also got a bit of shame lah. Okay, now, a bit, okay. So the thing is that we are going to meet at Tantric at 8 o'clock tonight to have some drinks. I don't know whether it's open. If it doesn't open, we are always okay with kopitiam. We are not the hoity-toities and the arty-farties, though we are quite artsy. Doy, I thought you were wearing something green today. You're usually
I decided to be more conservative today.
And Ivan is very well behaved. It's because of your activity, Ivan, that we are here today. We are so proud of you. Guys, whoever I may have crossed in this path, let me get my expose in order. So we are very happy for this decision. At least let's not be too disappointed about everything. Cut slack, some slack for the judiciary as well. It is not easy in the manner in which the Chief Justice has ruled on this. It is a layer of things. I mean, you all can say whatever you want. I have been before the Court of Appeal, and it started so long ago, 20 years. It has been a continuous march towards one, and Dr. Roy finally cracked the ceiling, and which started by the crack was first crack was by Tan Eng Hong, and now the major crack in the ceiling, glass ceiling, is by Dr. Roy. When the crack has started, the ceiling must fall, and we call for a repeal of the 377 completely by the Parliament, and please take the wisdom from the court and the direction that the court has given. To that end, I believe, that is my reading of it, and I wish all the best to all the gay community of alternative people, not just the gay, bisexuals and all that. As I said, I'm a pansexual. If you don't understand what it is, that's your problem. Go and read Dr. Roy's, what again?
Wiki articles.
Yeah, wiki.
The Singapore LGBT Encyclopedia Wiki.
The Singapore LGBT Encyclopedia Wiki is by Dr. Roy, and the one and only Dr. Roy, and the one and only Dr. Ivan, and thank you very much.